everybody's so eager to get an agent, and I get it, because the idea is like, oh, once I get an agent, everything becomes so much easier. Like, they bring stuff to me. Like, well, yes, they do bring stuff to you, but you still have to book it.
Hey, did I tell you I'm going on a cruise?
You are?
Ooh.
I am.
Where are you going?
Well, it's an exciting trip.
You sound super excited about it.
Yeah. It's my wife's birthday. And I asked her where she wanted to go because I'm not going to make that decision.
Smart man.
For my birthday, when I turned 60, she asked where I wanted to go. And I wanted to go to Vegas. So we went to Vegas for X amount of days and lost X amount of money. It was a great trip. So it's her turn. So we're going on a cruise. So we're going to leave out of here on the 29th of February, a day that rarely exists. And we're going to drive to the cities, fly to North Carolina. Then we spend the night. And then we fly to Puerto Rico, San Juan. And we cruise out of there. And we're heading to Tobago. We're going to St. Lucia. We're going to, there's other islands out there, I hear. But we're going to stay about
1 or 2.
About 7 days.
The Southern Caribbean tour sounds like. Maybe Jamaica?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Tobago, Tomato.
Why North Carolina first?
Because it's not a direct flight to San Juan from Minneapolis.
And it's round trip to San Juan, like San Juan is the port you leave and return to?
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's some round trips. There's some direct flights.
I don't believe there are at the time that I need to go.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Well, the last time we went, about 5 years ago, we had to fly to New York to San Juan.
See, that just seems out of the way.
Oh, it is. It's out of the way.
Yeah, but JFK is a decent airport.
Not if you don't have to go there.
I might be a little biased. Just a
You
little
are
bit.
a little biased.
Just a little
So, yeah,
bit.
so we're going to
More
spend
than a
about 8-10 days. And then we come back through Dallas, I believe. And it's all good.
All right.
I will be going to Atlanta around that time.
That's right.
You're
VO
doing
Atlanta.
a conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. I'm very excited about it.
Well, wait till next year when we're doing our podcast from there.
Yeah. All 3 of us are going to be there next year.
See?
Victoria.
Sure.
It's going to happen.
We'll see.
Speak it.
We'll see.
All the time.
We'll see. I have been able to manifest other things to come my way. So we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know why you would resist. It's,
It's
not like it's the biggest VO conference in the world. Or anything.
y'all need to understand. I
Tell
actually
me.
lived quite close to Atlanta for a long time.
And they won't let you back?
Pretty much. No, it's stop. So my mom is a Southern girl from North Carolina. And anytime I spent not all in one stretch, but I've probably spent a good 6-7 years living in what was called UCLA, the ugliest corner of Lower Alabama.
Wonderful.
Yes, the Wiregrass region near the Circle City of Dothan, and lived in the
familiar.
beautiful town of Enterprise, Alabama, which when I left was hit pretty hard with a hurricane that came through and actually did a lot of damage to the local school. So it was a whole thing.
You shouldn't have left.
Shouldn't have left. No, it was I had actually gotten a new job that moved me and my family up to Pennsylvania. It was a whole thing, but anytime I'm in that area, I can't help it. It's just
It overtakes you.
the Southern girl comes out, and it's very natural. It's not something I have to
You
think
never
about.
went to Florida as a young child, did you?
Yeah, all the time. My dad loved St. Augustine. So, and he also worked for Anheuser-Busch, and we got free tickets to go to
Drink
Busch
beer.
Gardens. Busch Gardens. Yeah.
Of
No,
course.
my dad didn't drink beer, actually. And I don't drink beer because it smells like my dad's sweat. Yeah. You're welcome for that. It's why I'm not a beer drinker. Do not. It's like, oh, that smells like dad. And my dad didn't drink because he was diabetic. So, but I do.
Good reason.
I mean, he was pulled over for speeding, And this is when we lived in upstate New York. And of course, he'd roll down his window. He'd have to show his badge, like, I work for the brewery. It's like, sir, can you step out of the car, please? And he had to always do a sobriety test. He's like, so we started wearing a medic alert bracelet to be like, no, I'm diabetic. I can't drink. It's like, okay, we're just going to write you up for speeding then. But anyway, it was just like, anyway,
Yes.
going back to, yes, I spent time in Florida. My dad loved to drive. So we went everywhere by car. Like I didn't even know what an
And you
airplane
lived in
was.
Dothan.
I lived in Dothan. Well, I lived outside of what's now called, I think it's Fort Novacell. It was Fort Rucker at the time I was there. And Fort Rucker was just a whole nother thing. Like, no. But yeah, I've lived in a lot of different places. And I think that's kind of what makes it cool in terms of doing voiceover. Because those accents are just natural. I don't have to try. It's just there. So,
See, I don't get accents. I just don't. I don't know why.
I mean, my mom chastised me as a kid saying, don't you dare do that because people are going to think you're making fun of them. But it was just something that happened and I didn't mean to. I was playing with my cousins. You know, it was just, I was a young girl and we spent pretty much every spring break, we'd go to North Carolina. And yeah, I don't know if my cousins listen to the podcast, but if they do, I was never trying to make fun of nobody. I just spoke that way. And it just kind of came out like it does. So, and same thing living in New York. And there's like an upstate New York accent too, as well
and you
as,
get that one?
I do. It's like a hard A. It's like, they like apples. It's really weird. I don't know. Yeah. But traveling, I think, is a challenge on a cruise ship, but it can be done. Are you going with any of your gear or no?
You know,
Are you actually taking a real vacation now?
the plan is to take a real vacation. However, gear's doesn't take up that much space. Unless you're bringing a like a little tripod or a PVC tent, right? Well,
Yeah.
You can actually record. So I have actually recorded. I was on a cruise ship in the Mediterranean.
you need the Wi-Fi package for that, though.
Go and do it when you're in port, right? When you're in port, and they usually will shut off the engines at some point too. So it depends on where, if you're, starboard or, sorry, I'm getting the whole ship thing mixed up, but
Port
or forward, right? And then starboard,
Forward or aft.
Forward or aft, starboard or what? Port? Yeah, port side. Port side isn't the best because you're going to hear all the traffic and all the
goings on.
The goings on.
Depends on the port.
It does.
Port
however,
side isn't always port.
Yes, and it depends because you could be where they have to take the small boat, the tender. See, I haven't been on a cruise since 2019. You guys, come on, be nice.
Will knows some stuff.
He knows some stuff.
My last cruise was March of 2020.
Oh, wow. Right on the cusp. Dang.
I had COVID before it was cool.
Wow.
Good times.
Yeah.
March of 2020.
Yeah, we were early adopters.
Nice.
My kid had a fever when we got on the boat. And we just figured it must be strep or something. And so, we went and saw the doctor and she's like, well, just probably just a viral thing or whatever. And
they were,
we basically had to cancel all of our excursions, which whatever, but he got better. It was like 2 days. He was kind of and then he was fine the rest of the time.
It still didn't have a name at that point, did it?
Basically, not officially, I don't think. It was probably
Corona
did in
first.
China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
SARS-CoV-2. Wuhan wet market something or other. I don't know.
No, it's Wu-Tang Clan.
whatever flavor of BS they were chugging at the time.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah.
You can still record on board. I would just recommend doing it when you're in a port. Otherwise, you're going to have all sorts of engine noise, depending on where you are. And people.
Deck
Well,
chairs.
What I'd like to do is, since we do have the balcony.
Oh, there you go. Record outside.
Record outside.
Perfect.
Hey, look at this. Look where I am.
Well, if you get, I think Adobe does it too, but the DaVinci Resolve has like a vocal cleaner tool built into it. It uses AI and like cleans out everything that's not voice.
Ooh.
And I've heard samples where, like they shot the video on a beach and you can hear the wind and the waves rolling in and the seagulls and the whatever. And they run it through this thing and it's like he's in a studio.
Amazing.
Like just clear, clean voice. It's crazy. Cool. So try that, maybe.
Yeah.
Be the guinea pig or the seagull, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, is
DaVinci,
it?
Yeah, DaVinci Resolve is free.
There's DaVinci Code, but
there's two versions. There's the free version, which has almost every feature, and then there's the studio version, which is a one-time payment of $300, which is still a total steal.
If it works like you're saying it works,
that's just one little piece of it. It's not even the main feature. It's not primarily an audio tool. Resolve started out as color grading software that was, basically hardware-driven color grading software used on all the biggest budget films. And then Blackmagic bought it, and they've added a bunch of stuff. So it's a full-blown video editor now, and effects package, and coloring, and they acquired Fairlight, which you may remember that name from the 80s, really high-end audio.
Yes.
Fairlight. So Fairlight's baked into it now, too. It's incredible. And it's free, which is insane.
Craziness.
But yeah, that's the tool that like all the cool kids are using for when they're creators these days. Is
very cool.
Because you can't beat it. So, yeah.
I think it gives us this gives us a good opportunity to talk about what sort of tools we can use when we're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What sort of... Go ahead.
You've got a mic dedicated for that, right?
I do. Although
You don't take the 416?
I don't.
Nice.
I don't. I've got a Tula mic, and it actually has a nice little noise canceling button on it.
And a built-in recorder.
And a built-in recorder. One of the things that I'd like to put as a disclaimer, though, because you also have it, Will, and you're not a big fan. And I think it's different for different voices.
That may be the same reason that I'm not a big fan of the little portable booth that I have, too. It's just that because my voice is resonant, a lot of chest voice when I talk, it tends to be kind of echoey. So unless I'm fully enclosed in something that kills all the reverberation, it bounces around the room and gets back in and, whatever. So recording thus far in my voiceover career, recording away from home has not been a very successful endeavor. I, for a while, had mic issues where I thought it was just picking up noise from, like, the AC in the hotel room or whatever. No, it turned out the mic was just messed up. And, like, why can't I dial this out when I turn on the noise? No, it's
a cable.
It was just baked
something.
in. It wasn't. I turned off all the fans and all the everything, and I'm sitting in the room just, like, drenched in sweat. Just dying. I'm like... under a blanket. I'm doing all the right things, and it's still... I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, well, that was a bad mic. It wasn't the cable. It was the mic, which thankfully was still under warranty. So I have a new one.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have to send the other one back?
No, they didn't want it back. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So that's a bad sign.
So
that's good. Keep it. We don't want to do any quality testing to figure out what happened to that one.
That was a Deity, which is a wonderful mic that I use for filmmaking. And is, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the cost of a 416, but everybody's good. In fact, one of the things that made me buy it in the first place was I was watching a bunch of reviews about it And someone actually threw theirs into a pond and left it there for a few days and brought it back in the house and dried it off, plugged it in. It worked just fine
And
because
you're
it's
like,
all
sold. I
it's
want
like
that.
I don't plan on dropping
She's-
it in the water, but that's,
Right.
I mean, for on-set use,
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing a film, if it's raining or something, I don't have to worry about it shorting out. Absolutely.
Good point.
So, yeah.
Good point for sure.
And
I mean,
they've got like a 3-year warranty. So why not?
Excellent. All right.
So, yeah. I don't know how it went bad. Just something about like air pressure flying on an airplane or something, maybe. I don't know. But that was not fun. And then the Tula, I want to like it, but like I said, my voice just like reverberates around the room a lot.
I mean, I did book a gig
Yeah.
under like pillows. I did the whole pillow fort, used
Oh
the
boy.
comforter, and did that. And it was it's very much a plug and play option. Prior to that, I used so I use USB mics when I'm on the road.
See, no
And
interface.
Right.
Sweet.
It's nice, but I like to let them know, whomever you're auditioning for, whether it's a rep or
Right.
you're doing for a client or whatever, let them know, hey, I'm out of my studio. This is my travel gear, so it's not as,
Right.
it doesn't sound as clean. It's not as
Right.
rich,
Right. This isn't the regular product.
Right.
Yeah. See, I don't think I'd want to try and do a job.
I had no choice.
Would
The
you
one
do a
that I had on the
Here.
cruise,
Although, well,
I was
Would you
gone
do the
for 2
podcast?
weeks.
I guess it depends on what it is, right? If it's,
Yeah.
if it's imaging or, automotive or something that just has a fast turnaround and the budget is low, so it doesn't make sense to try and go book a studio.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I have, a decent setup in place that I can get something usable and or run some filters on it to make it sound good.
Right.
Then maybe. But generally speaking, when I go to conferences and stuff, I'll tell my agents like, look, I'm booking out unless something major comes in and we can get a studio in town.
Right.
Sure.
Let's just book out. But I'll still try and get auditions done. I can't promise anything because it hasn't sounded good thus far.
Right.
The few times I've done it, but
But you want to be as transparent with your recordings as you can.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell them. I'm not going to just go out of town and not tell them and then have like some major booking for Pepsi come in and then try and hide under a blanket and do it with a USB mic.
That would be so terrifying to me. Like,
Yes.
no,
That's not going to fly. And, and
booked it off
something
the
like that is
audition.
probably going to want to have like a live session,
Mhm.
which I can't imagine that Source Connect's going to work very well in a hotel room.
No,
Man,
it doesn't. It usually doesn't.
With the port forwarding and stuff. Yeah, it just doesn't seem-
True.
Yeah, and hotel Wi-Fi is crappy, and even if you can plug in directly, it's usually kind of slow. And meh.
And for
No.
what it's worth, when you do have one of those bigger bookings, they are willing to put you in a studio.
Yeah, but
Sometimes,
the other
not always,
the
but
other problem with voiceover conferences and this is all those hotels are right next to an airport
all the time next to
all
the
the
airport.
time. Like it's
the time.
convenient, I suppose, but
Yeah,
it's
but-
not convenient for recording.
And can I just say,
No.
knowing
Yes.
that usually LA vocal booths or studio bricks, they're always there. Why are they
Yeah.
not allowing voice actors to try out their stuff after hours? Like,
Well, or why are they not setting up a bank of them
right?
and then
That's a great idea.
rent it out half hour for $15 or whatever.
Anything. Because
Yeah.
I was so tempted because they had the LA vocal booth in LA.
Mhm.
And I had something I really needed to get in, and that I could not control no matter what I did. They had it so that guests couldn't turn off the AC or the heater. It was
Right.
just going to be on. So I was like, crap. So I had to like time it and wait. But had I been able to just like, hey, can I come down here at night and just, but they lock everything up, so you can't. But the
See, they didn't
temptation,
when we were in Burbank, I don't think.
yeah,
The year before, I think that was still open because I'm pretty sure there was at least one person who went and recorded something
mm,
in the whatever was it, LA or
LA
Bear
vocal
Cave? I
booth.
don't know what it was.
Like I have
but
here.
Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Amazing.
she's the poster child.
Yeah. I'm
One
on the
of- one of
poster.
several.
On the poster.
I'm on the poster. Yeah. Because it's awesome, I think. I don't know. But it's when I'm away from it, I know. It's like crap.
Right.
I sound like I'm under a pillow. Or because
Right.
I am. And I'm also on a USB mic and it's not as rich as, a Sennheiser or the Neumann. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to make concessions and we let let reps know, let clients know, hey.
Yep.
And it's funny because if you haven't done it yet, Al, I would recommend you send that email to your clients, letting them know, hey, I'm going to be out enjoying, my wife's birthday on a cruise.
Sure.
If you have any,
otherwise,
yeah,
if you do it the day
That's
before,
when they're coming in.
yeah,
if you do it the day before, you're
Yeah.
going to have like 30 hours to get done in the 12 that you need before you got to leave.
Yes.
yeah. But
So,
those are
I get
like the
that,
perfect
yes.
ways to book work. Let them know your availability is limited. They're like,
Nil.
oh
Yes.
no, yeah.
I
Every
guess
time.
that's the scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
'cause
they
that's
also
like,
that you're in demand. And I
Yeah.
think that's why we as voice actors, we share those bookings. Like, hey, I
Yep.
did this thing for, this client. That's kind of cool. And you share it like, oh, I booked that.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I do stuff. You want to do stuff
Yeah.
too? I can do stuff.
I mean, it also, feels nice to share like, hey, I did this cool thing, and people go, oh, that's so cool. That feels nice because it's a very,
Yeah.
we're on our own all the time, and
True.
some kind of feedback is nice. But the double-edged sword there is people think like, oh, you're working all the time. It's like, no, I haven't worked since October.
It is weird though.
It's been 8 months.
Everybody kept posting like, oh, I did this thing. It's, oh, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's January. And oh, wow, it's the second day of January. And I already did like 3 jobs. I'm like, okay, good. Yay for you.
Good for you, Marsha.
Whatever. But yeah,
Okay, Jan.
Gotta
Whatever,
take our
Jan.
wins when we get them. And I guess,
Yes.
it's not all the time.
Everybody has
I mean,
battles.
from the outside looking in, you could look at
Yes.
virtually any voice talent and be like, oh, you book all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do. Some people are booking multiple times a day or several times a week or every couple of weeks or whatever. And then there's other people who, every few months.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's usually every few months. But, I'm also not, I've said it before, I'm not doing pay to play anymore. So I'm not going after the,
Same here.
the
Yep.
$200 jobs or
Well,
whatever.
you
which
have to set
I'm
your
not
limits.
opposed to them.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to a job, $250 job or whatever. But I just don't have any love for those pay to plays because they're just.
No, that's all about speed versus quality.
A
And
lot is all
I think it's a
about
race
that.
to the bottom for most of them right now.
It really feels that way. Yeah. And they're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need quick turnaround for a $15 job.
Yeah. And if I'm paying $500 a year to have access to the stuff.
Yeah.
Paying an additional 20% on top of that for every job just really feels like a lot. Especially when it's a small job.
Yeah.
Right.
Because 20% of 250 is $50.
Yeah. So
And 20% of a $25 job on a pay to play.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
wouldn't even look at those.
they've
No,
become
but
very
they're there.
saturated with AI jobs now too, and this text to speech garbage is just nonstop. And like I have the free profiles. I refuse to pay for them for a couple of those that we're referring to, and I just keep the free profile because every once in a very long while I'll get a oh, you've been selected to audition for this, right? Or
Sure.
a message.
I
And
still have a free one on Voices. I do not on Voice 123 because I specifically reached out to them and had them delete it.
you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was done. And when I did, they're like, "Oh, well, you're still on a paid plan for another month." Like, you dropped me into the bottom 10%. I see nothing ever.
Yeah.
Why do I care?
Yeah.
The last time that I paid $660 for 1 quarter
Mm-hmm.
for Q1 of
Wow.
last year.
Sure.
And then like all my old stuff expired within a month, and I went into the basement. And
Yeah.
you
Hey,
can
thanks
never
for the
recover
money.
from that. Yeah, you can never recover from that. So as far as I'm concerned, they stole that money from me.
Yep.
Period. Now, that said, that and every other dollar I've ever paid them, I've gotten back more than from one job, because I booked my very first SAG job there a couple of years ago, and that has renewed multiple times now. And so that, including the renewals, that one job is my highest paid job ever. And
That's awesome.
I mean, it's not massive, it's a couple of grand, but my highest paid single job still is that one.
Right.
Sure.
And I imagine it'll renew for several more years, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have that account at all anymore.
No.
It's gone. And I'm not upset about that. And I just thought about this just now. Interestingly, so I deleted that. It was a couple weeks ago, I think, that I deleted it. I forget when it was. But just last week, I got an email from somebody who I had auditioned for on that site last year, like January, I think, of maybe February last year. And they loved what I did, but they picked somebody else. And he just emailed me and said, "We're doing it again this year, and we want you." Like,
Hey.
so
That
you know,
kind of comes back to
so that's cool.
what we're talking about, even with direct marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You can send out something, you can audition for something, just, what they call like touch points, just checking in with
Yeah, sure.
somebody a year ago, and they're just now getting back to you. I had
Yep.
something
absolutely.
similar that I auditioned in spring of last year, but I said I didn't want to do it because it was a student film and it wasn't SAG rates. It was really below budget. And I said, thank you so much for selecting me. And I understand it's a student film. I really do. And budgets are a thing. So, making sure that my communication was professional. I wasn't like, I ain't doing it for that. No, I really did appreciate knowing what the rate was. And sorry, I can't do it, but thank you for including me on the casting. They came back to me in the end of the year. They had filed their SAG paperwork, and they had done all the things all with the bells and whistles, and asked me, hey, it's still open if you'd like to do it. It's now and I was like, absolutely. It was just, but all that time that passed, I figured they moved on. That was done.
Oh,
They
yeah.
filmed it. And then here they come back. Same thing with you, Will. You thought, okay, well, that was lost.
I didn't even think about it. It was like,
Sure.
great.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
done.
And it's kind of neat when that happens.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
The reality is that more often than not, no isn't really no. It's just not now.
Not right now.
Right.
Now, whether or not they come back, oftentimes that depends on whether or not they remember who you are. So in terms of marketing, follow-ups help, because if you never follow up, they'll forget who you are.
I think
don't do it too often, because you're just going to piss them off.
That, and when you're reaching out to reps too, don't do it too frequently. I kind of have a personal, it's either once a year or once every 6 months, depending. I just don't want to be that. Like, I have one agency that I actually refuse to submit to. Again, they know me. They know where I am. I've submitted and I don't hear back, but I don't need them anymore. So
there you go.
If they want me, that's different, but they're going to have to come to me. So, and getting in that mindset is fun, because there's times where it slips and like, well, maybe I should just no, you told yourself you're not going to do that. So, but knowing that frequency so that you're still professional, but you don't come across like, I really, really want to work with you. Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, there's a mindset, harkening back to an earlier episode about this, that I think is applicable. That when I adopted this, when I was interviewing for jobs, it was like transformational. And that's, most people go into an interview for a job and they go in with the attitude of, man, I really need this job. I need the money. I need the paycheck to pay this and that and whatever. And, then you're coming in from you're desperate, and you're coming in from a scarcity mindset, right? Yeah. But the reality is, most of the time with a job, you don't need them as much as they need you. And if you keep that in your head when you go into an interview, suddenly the whole experience is completely different. It's much more relaxing. You're not just like, oh, they're going to ask me all these questions I have to come up with perfect answers for. It's no, you're kind of driving the boat, right?
You
like
interview
you ask the
them.
questions.
Yeah.
You determine whether
That's
they're
what they
worth your
say.
time.
100%.
And that's maybe not fully applicable to an agent, but at the same time,
It kind of is. Absolutely.
it kind of is, because it's a working relationship, right? So
it should be.
Oh, it is. It may be a
Well, I mean,
toxic
a lot of times,
relationship.
well, it is, but it's not always treated that way by the agent.
Then
because
that's an
they've
agent
got
you don't
people-
want to be with.
Right.
Yeah.
They've got people approaching them. So you're
Sure.
right. They don't create the relationship that it needs
Right.
to be.
Yeah. It's reality is it's a partnership, right?
Sure.
You don't work for them. They don't work for you. They're finding opportunities. You're doing your best to book the work.
Yep.
And, if you book the work, then they get rewarded for doing the legwork to find it for you. And they've probably sent it to a few other people too.
That's why they get the 10 to 20%, depending
Right.
on. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And
if it works, you don't
and
mind
you're not paying them if you don't book anything. So,
Yeah.
it's a great partnership if you can find the right one who's,
Sure.
it's more than just the personality and the relationship you have together. It's, whether they've got access to the things that fit you and so forth. And
You do want to make sure you're with an agent that gets you.
Yeah, everybody's so eager to get an agent, and I get it, because the idea is like, oh, once I get an agent, everything becomes so much easier. Like they bring stuff to me. Like, well, yes, they do bring stuff to you, but you still have to book it. And
Yes.
now suddenly you're playing at a higher level and it's harder to book. So there's that. And, it's hard to get an agent. Well, maybe because you're just not ready. You're not good enough. Or they already have 5 people that sound exactly like you. There's any number of reasons, and it's usually not personal. Maybe it's
SpongeBob isn't working
personal
for you
if maybe it's personal if you're a dink and they just nobody likes you. But usually it's not personal. Usually it's
not.
There's
Usually
just not. It's not a smart business move for them for whatever reason.
Sure.
Right.
And that makes sense, because until you book something, they are working on your behalf for free.
And you do have to kind of vet those sources yourself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know that, we tend to talk about who we're working with and
Right.
maybe some of the things that we like, maybe some of the things that don't work for us, but works better for other people. Like I have one agency. They are so they're communicating all the time with everybody, like the entire roster, and we're on Slack as a team, the whole roster, and they do film projects together, and like they did the 24-hour film fest sort of thing, and they're trying to get people off the roster. Fortunately, I didn't live nearby, so I couldn't participate, but it's a very collaborative space. And then I have my first agent who I've had forever and a day, and we kind of catch up on things every once in a while, but I try not to overload any inbox. It's like when I hear from her, great.
Right.
And then I have some, they just send me stuff, but I don't, if I don't respond to the audition, they don't care. Like, okay.
I've never had this come up. If they give you something and you don't think it's right for you, are they open for you to do a referral?
Depends. Like sometimes it'll say we're open to referrals in the breakdown. They'll say, hey, this particular agency is open to it. Or I'll write back to, I know I had something specific that I know Will could do in his sleep. Like, please send it to him. So I reach out to them.
Which happened, and then I didn't book it.
But I was like, but he can do it in his sleep. Seriously.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting how like sometimes they'll ask for those things. And yes, but most of the time, I mean, I know, Will, you have someone that if you don't send in an audition, you kind of get that little nudge like, hey, are you sending this in? Because we're coming up on a timeline. And I do have one agent that does that as well. Like, hey, let me know if you're not submitting, because they're doing it with a curated list versus, hey, I've got everybody 30 to 40 female sends it, and
They
it's
get
like
it.
500 people.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
They're not counting who's auditioning. They don't care.
Yeah, no, my agent, it's all curated.
Yeah.
Which is fabulous, because if I get something, it's because
you.
they think that I can book it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whether I
that
agree
is
or
awesome.
not is a different story.
No, but that's nice.
No, I was thinking of it like someone who does accents, and it's a project for that accent you do. But you say, this would be so much better for someone who actually speaks that language. I know someone.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's a fairly friendly community.
I think I would say it's probably acceptable to just send that to your agent and just say, I appreciate this, and, I'll certainly give it a shot, but I think this person is a fabulous fit.
Yeah.
You might consider reaching out.
Because I keep a list, of anything that I don't do. And I use that.
Oh, same.
So now the other thing, when I Google's, I don't know, forum group, I don't even know what it's called, but like they'll post on there and then it'll go to everybody. And they'll say, we're working on this thing. Here's what we need. We need like a 17-year-old girl who speaks Russian or something. Like, well, that's not me, but obviously that's the reason they post there is they're looking for something they don't have. Right.
Gotcha.
And oftentimes when that's happened, I'll go reach out to people in my network and go, hey, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And then I'll send a list. And I think the last time I sent like 5 names.
Nice.
Last year, they were looking for a Southern voice, an older male Southern voice, or kind of a middle-aged Southern. I don't remember the exact specs, but I recommended Troy Holden, who I don't know if either of you know. But, and he booked it. It was it was his first SAG gig. He booked it.
Sweet.
I love doing. I had someone who they needed to speak Spanish, but a specific. They were looking for South American Spanish, and the one person that I sent it to, she booked it, and it was for a major grocery chain. So it was really it's cool when that happens. It doesn't happen frequently, but it seems like, when they're looking for something really specific, they're like, we need somebody from like Argentina, Colombia.
Right.
Like, I know somebody. And I think that's what's really cool about, when we talk about a community.
Right.
Yeah.
Is kind of reaching out. And Will, you knew somebody who had an Australian accent, and I've since like connected with her because I do see that, and I cannot do an Australian accent. I've tried. It's not good.
Sure. Yeah, my biggest job that I had was with a production house in Oklahoma, and it was for IFSTA's firefighter training manual. Well, it's huge. It's 300,000 words of training manual. Yeah. This is a project, and they wanted a male-female alternating voice. Well, I did it, and Lori did the female voice. So that was our biggest project. It was,
Lori, your wife.
Yes, Lori, my wife. And so it paid for a lot of things. Well, then they came back and said, hey, we're doing it in Spanish. Can you book or get male, female? Got the list. Yes, I did. They went in, they booked the job.
Yay.
So it worked really well for everybody.
That's nice.
Cool.
Definitely like referring people. Definitely like doing that.
Especially when they win. That's
right.
Oh,
it feels good because you feel like
it feels almost as good as booking it yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
the only reason it's not as good is because you're not getting paid. But
yeah,
I
you didn't have to do the work.
A casting director. You know that? I would love to do that at some point. I would.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I would.
It sounds like a lot of work. I feel like I'd rather be an agent. Not to say that being an agent is less work, but it's a different kind of work.
It is, but I think don't you have to go through like licensure and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I guess I would have to be a manager.
And you can't.
That's what I was going to ask.
You're not
an agent
allowed
or a manager
in SAG to also will work. Whereas when you're working in casting, you can still work as a voice actor. That's why. That's my personal reason.
Last call!
Do we have a last call? I mean, we've talked about a whole bunch of different things.
I know. What
we
was
have.
it?
We talked about travel. We talked about travel
did.
gear.
Talked about
talked about
agents,
Agents
representation.
and referrals. And
Well, maybe you can
Yep.
split this up into a couple of podcasts, maybe?
it's not long enough for that.
That's what she said.
It is long for one.
Boom.
It's not long enough for two.
Good times.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see you
times.
next time.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, bye.